Hey there, Husky Pups. This is Mrs. Morgan coming to you live to give you another lesson on life cycles. We are going to go to part 2 today with our life cycle lesson. So let me come back over here. We ended looking at some key terms and vocabulary, so I just wanted to do a quick recap. Let's get started. Our first vocabulary term is mature or fully grown. Some synonyms: adult or grown. And you can see it's used in a sentence. My dad used to be a baby, but then he was a boy. Now he's fully grown and mature. Our next vocabulary term is seed, a small object a plant produces that can grow into a new plant. Our next vocabulary term, life cycle, the series of changes a living thing passes through. And are using it in a sentence, all living things go through a life cycle with different stages as they grow and develop. And our last vocabulary word, mammal, a warm-blooded vertebrate animal that produces milk to feed their young, gives birth to live babies, and is covered with fur or hair. Cats, horses, whales, and humans are examples. A human is a mammal, a category that includes dogs, cows, elephants, and mice too. Now let's see how we're going to use these. I'd like for you to work with me on matching the term with its corresponding definition. We just went over this, so hopefully it's fresh in your mind. If I were to select mature, is it a small object a plant produces, a series of changes a living thing passes through, a warm-blooded vertebrate animal, or does it mean fully grown? If you're telling me fully grown, great job, you got it. Life cycle, let's keep going. Is it something that a plant produces, an animal, or a series of living things, a series of changes a living thing passes through? If you're telling me to click there, you would be correct. A mammal, well, we are mammals, and that's an example over here in the warm-blooded vertebrate animal that produces milk to feed their young, gives birth to live babies, and is covered with fur or hair, which leaves us with seed. And we all know that a seed comes from a plant to grow into a new plant. Great job, Husky Pups. Let's keep working through a couple more slides. Let's think together how we would take notes using lines from the vocabulary to help us better understand. So let's take a look at these next 4 lines that are pulled from the vocabulary video. We aren't born as adults and we don't live forever. We all go through the life cycle together. Things are born, they grow, reproduce, and die. That's the cycle of life that we all live by. Well, what vocabulary word just kind of jumps right out at you when you read this? To me, I saw life cycle. Let me better underline that. Life cycle. And what is a life cycle? Well, it's that cycle where you're born, you grow, reproduce, and die. That's the description that defines what a life cycle is within that song. So let's take a look at explaining the major stages of a butterfly's life cycle. And we're going to compare that to the dog's life cycle. Humans and dogs are both mammals, meaning they share a lot of traits like the fact that they aren't born inside eggs. We're going to take a closer look at the second verse of the vocabulary song to better understand the steps of a dog's life cycle and what it shares with other plants and animals. So in doing so, let's listen.
Now an animal's life cycle is sort of the same. There's an example of a mammal. Let me explain. Take a puppy that's inside of its mom. It's born with its eyes shut. It doesn't know what's going on. It's just a juvenile. It's not full grown. It's living off its mother's milk, not chewing a bone. And over time, this little puppy will grow into an adult you can pet if you're lucky, and then it might have babies, reproduce, the dog will grow old, yup, it's the truth, and one day it will die, all things do, cause if nothing ever died, then there will be nothing new. How about a butterfly? Way up high, a female lays eggs, then heads to the sky. Bye-bye. Ride her hold tight. You want a thriller? Yeah. When the egg hatches, it's a caterpillar or larva, a worm-like thing that eats leaves, and it keeps getting bigger each time it feeds, shedding skin along the way. But listen to this. What? Soon it forms into a pupa or chrysalis. Inside, the caterpillar is changing. After its metamorphosis, it won't be the same thing. It transformed to a butterfly. It will reproduce and die. The cycle of life. We are born as adults, and we don't live forever. We all go through the life cycle together. Things are born, they grow, reproduce, and die. That's the cycle of life that we all live by. We are born as adults, and we don't live forever. We all go through the life cycle together. Things are born, they grow, reproduce, and die. That's the cycle of life that we all live by.
Okay, so now that we've listened to that again, let's take a look at analyzing the lyrics. We just listened to those lyrics, so let's take a look at the animal's life cycle. It's sort of the same. Here's an example of a mammal. Let me explain. Mammals are groups of animals that share certain traits. They are warm-blooded and have hair or fur. Cows, bears, wolves, humans, and whales are also mammals. So that's just a simple definition of a mammal. Take the puppy that's inside of its mom. It's born with its eyes shut. It doesn't know what's going on. Well, let's try to analyze. It doesn't know what it's going on. The rapper says the puppy doesn't know what's going on, and that's because puppies are born unable to do certain things adult dogs can do. It's the same for human babies. If you have a sibling at home or you've known someone to have a baby, you know that babies don't come out walking and talking and running and playing basketball or football. It's all of the things you have to learn as you grow. It's just a juvenile. It's not full grown. It's living off its mother's milk, not a chewing bone. So this is another trait that all mammals share. They produce milk to feed their young. So think about cows. They have a baby, they produce milk. That's where we get our milk from at the store. Dogs, we've seen, I'm sure we've either seen or we've seen videos of puppies nursing off their moms or kittens. Maybe if you visited a farm, pigs. And over time, this little puppy will grow into an adult you can pet if you're lucky. Well, what does that mean? What is the rapper saying? Well, if you're lucky, you can pet a puppy too at some point. Maybe it's your own puppy that you get one day, or maybe it's your aunts or uncles, or maybe you're at a pet store and you get to pet a puppy, or in the park if you ask the owner first. And then it might have babies, reproduce. The dog will grow old. Yep, it's the truth. And one day it will die. All things do. Because if nothing ever died, then there would be nothing new. So that nothing new piece, referring to a cycle is something that repeats. If nothing ever died, then nothing would ever be new. He's just simply stating that the cycle would stop instead of repeating itself. Even think about in nature with plants, trees and flowers, vegetation. It grows, it reproduces by creating those vegetables or those flowers or the apples on the trees, and then it kind of dies. It goes into that stage of hibernation, the tree itself. The apples will fall or the fruit will fall from the tree, and if, with any luck, those seeds will go into the ground, decompose, and they will grow a new tree. Okay, let's keep going, friends. According to the song, how do mammal mothers care for their young as they grow into adults? So we can click here, and it's going to take us to listen to that again. I'm going to stop us, though, for just a second. We're going to come back over here. Let me make my screen big again. We just talked about it. I'm going to give you a second. How do mother mammals or mammal mothers care for their young as they grow into adults? So think about what we talked about with a cow when it has a baby. Think about a dog when it has a puppy or puppies. How do they help care for their young? Mammal mothers care for their young by What is that? Oh, I think I hear you shouting it at the computer. Producing milk. Great job. So we aren't born as adults. We don't live forever. We all go through the life cycle together. Things are born, they grow, reproduce, and die. That's the cycle of life that we all live by. If you have a pet or know someone who has one, what stage of life cycle is that pet in? You can listen to this link again for the hook song. But if we think about those science experiments that Mrs. Morgan's posting on the Class Dojo page, tadpoles, what life cycle stage are tadpoles of a frog? Or the seeds that I showed you of the plants we're planting, what stage of the plant cycle are we in? Bree, you have a puppy. What stage is your puppy in? Myra, she has kittens and cats. Mrs. Morgan has, you know, I have my old men dogs. They're in that end stage where they could reproduce, so they're mature mammals. Okay, giving you something to think about. And we are going to stop right here today. On slide 24, we will pick up with part 3 at another time. Have a great day, Husky Pups. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.